Today is Friday, December 6th. What to know about new clues in the search for an insurance executive's killer, including cryptic messages from the crime scene. Also, how an unusually powerful earthquake impacted people for hundreds of miles along the West Coast. Plus, the long-awaited reopening of the famous Notre Dame Cathedral. A new rule that could give delayed airline passengers more cash. And the most mispronounced words of 2024. Those stories and even more news to know coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. It seems authorities are getting closer to finding the person who gunned down an insurance executive on a Midtown Manhattan sidewalk. They haven't actually named the suspect in the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, but they released images yesterday that actually show his uncovered face. They're also putting together a timeline of the gunman's whereabouts in the days leading up to the shooting. Law enforcement officials say he came to New York from Atlanta on a Greyhound bus and stayed at an Upper West Side hostel. He apparently used a fake ID to check in. Several surveillance videos also show the suspect around the time of the murder, and afterward, he seemed to leave some clues behind. The AP and other news outlets cite police sources who say there were messages written on the ammunition used to kill Thompson, including the words deny and defend. That echoes a phrase that's often used to describe insurers' tactics to avoid paying claims. And United Healthcare specifically has faced a range of complaints and investigations from patients, doctors, and lawmakers for denying medical claims. Still, investigators have not determined an official motive, though they do believe Thompson was targeted. As of this morning, they're still taking tips from all around the country. Police are offering a $10,000 reward for information that leads to an arrest. A hearing on Capitol Hill burst into a screaming match this week. The acting director of the Secret Service was there testifying about assassination attempts against President-elect Trump while he was still running for office, and that led to some tough questioning. But it's actually not what led up to the back-and-forth shouting. That came after Congressman Pat Fallon brought up a 9/11 remembrance event. He accused acting Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe of standing too close to President Biden for an official photo. Rowe explained that he personally responded to the attacks on the World Trade Center and was in New York on 9/11 this year to show respect for two Secret Service members who died on that day 13 years ago. Well, Congressman Fallon says he did not believe that was the real reason. Instead, he shouted that Rowe just wanted to be visible as he was angling for a permanent leadership role, and that by putting himself in that position when he wasn't actually the agent in charge that day, he put President Biden's life in danger. Rowe yelled too, saying the congressman was invoking 9/11 for political purposes and was out of line. Eventually, the hearing got back on track. Rowe explained how the Secret Service agency is reorganizing and reimagining its culture and how it operates. For example, putting a stronger emphasis on training and doing regular reviews of events to see what went right and where improvements can be made. A final report about the assassination attempts is expected soon. A civil war in Syria has been escalating in a turn of events that surprised nations all over the world. This latest conflict started last week when a group of Syrian rebels seized one of the country's largest cities, Aleppo. Then yesterday, rebels seized another major city, Hama, and made it clear they don't plan to end here. Even rebels say they weren't expecting to make such substantial gains so quickly, and it now appears they're on their way to the capital, Damascus. But the Syrian government is still fighting back, and it has powerful allies like Russia and Iran. This week, they sent in warplanes and fighters and pledged their unconditional support to al-Assad. At this point, analysts and activists are split on which side they're supporting here. On one hand, President al-Assad's government is known for its brutality, and there is some fear that with the help of Russia and Iran, he could do major damage in an attempt to stay in power, similar to what happened back in 2011. Though to be clear, back in 2011, it was a peaceful pro-democracy uprising that turned into this full-scale civil war. Whereas this time, rebels are being led by a militant group that the U.S. designated as a terror organization. For now, the U.S. is staying out of it, just asking for de-escalation by all sides. It has now been 5 years since a fire almost destroyed the iconic Notre Dame Cathedral in France. And now about 50 heads of state and government are headed to Paris to celebrate its reopening. France has put forth a massive effort to get to this point. Notre Dame has seen more than 2,000 days of work, involving 2,000 people who restored or rebuilt 2,000 features, nearly exactly as they were before the fire. And the reopening is happening tomorrow. One notable name on the guest list, President-elect Donald Trump. It will be Trump's first overseas trip since he won the election last month. Current First Lady Jill Biden will also be there. After the opening ceremony, Mass will be celebrated Sunday and twice daily for 8 days. Then Notre Dame can go back to being one of Paris's most famous tourist destinations. We have more news for you still ahead. But first, a quick break to thank our sponsor, Trade Coffee. When the holiday hustle sneaks up on you or just feels a bit overwhelming, Trade is your secret weapon. Their personalized coffee subscriptions are sent in minutes and make such a great gift to anyone in your life who drinks coffee. It's like gifting them a tour of the country's best coffee shops without leaving home. I mean, just listen to the description of my most recent delivery. Notes of rich dark chocolate and peanut butter perfectly harmonize in this delightfully sweet and slightly malty Brazilian cup. And I'm here to say it does taste as good as it sounds. Next up, I've got a bag called the Optimist Blend that I'm super excited to try. See how this feels like a fun experience in addition to getting great high-quality coffee? That's why Trade makes such a great gift. So are you ready to cross that last gift off your list? Trade is offering their best savings of the year on gift subscriptions right now. So head to drinktrade.com/newsworthy to send a personalized coffee subscription in minutes. Again, go to drinktrade.com/newsworthy while Trade is offering their best savings of the year on gift subscriptions. Now back to the news. One of the biggest California earthquakes in years shook off the state's northern coast yesterday. The magnitude 7.0 quake had an epicenter in the Pacific Ocean, about 50 miles southwest of Eureka, a town near the Oregon border. It's the largest earthquake to hit Northern California since 1992. People from Oregon to San Francisco felt the shaking. Those closest to the epicenter said the earthquake knocked items off shelves, caused power outages, and cracked roads. Officials are still assessing the full extent of the damage, but no injuries have been reported so far. The earthquake also led to a tsunami warning for around 5 million people. Officials told those close to the ocean to evacuate or move to higher ground. San Francisco Zoo even evacuated visitors, but reported its animals were safe. Ultimately, the tsunami warning was lifted. There were many smaller aftershocks in the area, and more could be coming. But geologists say it's unlikely they'll reach the magnitude of the initial quake. The killing of United Health CEO has sparked a lot of emotion on social media, but not all of it has been sympathetic. There's actually been some joyfulness at the news and a flood of comments from people who wrote about negative experiences they've had with health insurance companies, plus memes and jokes. For example, people responded by saying, quote, "My condolences are out of network," or "thoughts and deductibles to the family." A trade group of health insurers condemned these kinds of reactions. The trade group CEO told Axios that people in the industry are working to make coverage and care as affordable as possible and to help people navigate the complex medical system. But there is some concern about how unhappy customers are. And CNN says multiple major healthcare providers have started increasing personal protection around their top executives. By the way, one insurer's recent policy change was brought up quite a bit online, and just yesterday, that change got reversed. In a few states, Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield was planning to only cover anesthesia services for a certain number of minutes per procedure. The change was controversial when it was first announced, and even more so after this week's shooting. Anthem did not specifically say the murder was the reason for the reversal, just that there was a lot of misinformation out there. Either way, the idea has been shelved. A new rule would give airline passengers extra cash if their flight gets delayed, and in some cases, it would be close to $800. The Department of Transportation proposal would create a sliding scale for compensation depending on how long the delay is, starting at $200 for domestic flights delayed at least 3 hours. The longer the delay, the more money passengers would get. And these cash payments would be on top of refunds the Biden administration made mandatory earlier this year. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says the rule would encourage airlines to make sure flights depart on time. But a group representing major carriers argues that cash payments to customers would drive up costs. There's a 60-day public comment period on the proposed rule. In the end, it will be up to the incoming Trump administration to decide whether the rule actually goes into effect. Language learning platform Babbel has put together a list of the most mispronounced words of 2024, a list that includes politicians, weight loss drugs, and a popular shopping platform. One of the most mispronounced words was a presidential candidate. Kamala Harris's first name tripped up a lot of people, including her opponent, Donald Trump. Semaglutide, the active ingredient in weight loss drug Ozempic, also made the list, as did popular fast fashion platform Shein. Pop star Chappell Roan also caused people to struggle this year, along with a few other names and words that made waves in 2024. You can find the whole list along with helpful pronunciation guides on Babbel's website. Get ready to see a lot of brown in 2025. The new color of the year is Mocha Mousse. The Pantone Color Institute decides colors of the year that are supposed to reflect what's happening culturally, while also predicting trends in the year ahead. As part of the reveal, Pantone partners with artists, designers, and brands that will incorporate Mocha Mousse into their projects going forward. It says it picked Mocha Mousse because the dark brown hue reminds us of chocolate and coffee and our overall desire for comfort and everyday escapes. The earthy color is also supposed to represent a growing movement to align with the natural world. Well, that's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Feel Good Friday, when we bring you one extra feel-good or positive news story before the weekend. But first, a quick break for our sponsor. It's a great feeling to give someone a gift they love. And I personally think you can't go wrong with a little bit of luxury at an affordable price from Quince. For example, Quince's Mongolian cashmere sweaters start at just $50. Or check out the ultimate year-round gifts like 14-karat gold jewelry, Italian leather handbags, and so much more. So how does Quince ensure quality at an affordable price? By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, Quince passes the savings onto you. Plus, I appreciate that Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they use premium fabrics and finishes for that luxury feel in every piece. Whether it's my washable silk tank or my organic cotton knit blazer, I love wearing Quince, so I know my family and friends will too. Gift luxury this holiday season without the luxury price tag. Go to quince.com/newsworthy for 365-day returns plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE.com/newsworthy to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/newsworthy. Now back to Feel Good Friday. A North Carolina man found a way to celebrate Thanksgiving in a way that helped people who have had a tough year, and it ended up growing into a huge community effort. David Burke lives a few hours from the towns that were hit by Hurricane Helene earlier this year, but he says he felt called to help when he saw the extent of the devastation. So Operation Thanksgiving Blessings was born. Burke was able to put together enough supplies to make 1,000 hot meals. Then his neighbors got wind of the idea. The group eventually grew to 200 volunteers, and 1,000 became 5,000 hot meals delivered to some of the people who faced some of the most severe storm damage. Volunteers also handed out other basic supplies. But their efforts don't end now that Thanksgiving is over. Burke says Operation Thanksgiving Blessings will continue to show support to Western North Carolina families. And he hopes people who hear about the effort will realize they can also step up and help people in their own communities. Well, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back tomorrow with our special edition Saturday episode about how to make holiday cooking and really cooking in general less stressful, even if you're not a pro in the kitchen and whether or not you have little kids. Then join us again Monday for another Daily News Roundup. For now, thank you so much again for listening and have a great weekend.